So I just wanted to go over a couple of things with the last car I uploaded. So as you know, it's a 6-wheel drive with 4-wheel steering. The front steering is supposed to be the front steering is supposed to be full, with the rear being about 50%. It's based on the Gamma Goat. As you can see in here, the drive shaft goes all the way through the rear axle. I just wanted to show how all the mechanisms were working on this. So take a look from the top. You see that this is the motor box. It goes directly to the front axle with a drive shaft, which is also mounted on a bearing. The same at the rear, you've got the axle direct from the output shaft of the motor, well, the gearbox, to the axle. Then axle, which is a throughput, out to the universal joint here, which then goes to the rear axle. As you can see, you have to line the UJ up just right with the coupling in order for it to transition smoothly. If we look at the other side, for the underside for the trailer, unlike the front tractor section where it's on the upper side, the drive shaft goes on the underside instead on this one. Again, it's basically just the same as it is on the front. Now, because the way I've designed this, it doesn't have suspension up and down, as you can see, with it being a solid axle all the way through. So what I did was, since I was using that live axle method, it actually rotates centered on the drive shaft. So I have both springs overextended so they balance each other out. And as it gets pushed, as it gets compressed on one side, the other will drop. And this will keep it centered on the drive axle. The downside to that is that when you do go over an object, it moves the entire chassis like this. It doesn't mean it's the worst thing, but it's not the best for the suspension. As I said, I've said it plenty of times on Facebook when I've been updating posts. It's the Gamma Goat actually has full independent suspension, not live axle, so it wouldn't actually move the chassis like this does. So as you can probably tell, the whole chassis is actually sitting on the drive shafts. So it's not only just mounted to the chassis through the gearbox, the motor gearbox here, it's actually mounted on the axle, on the drive shaft here. Oops, my pointy. So it's mounted on the drive shaft with this bearing. Again, back here we've got another bearing in here, which is an 850 bearing, so that the universal joint can actually sit in the bearing. And again, for the rear, the trailer is actually sitting on the drive shaft through these two bearings. Of course, it's all being balanced out again on the springs, which is difficult to see. For the steering solution for the rear, on the actual Gamma Goat, it actually uses a sort of drive shaft, but for the steering mechanism, so it's all mechanical from the front to the rear, which is why it only has 50% at the rear end. But in this, in my design, I decided to use just doing something like that is just a bit too tedious, so it's just another servo at the back here. It's a bit difficult to see, with a short arm, with a short horn. But the front one has a much longer horn. Now to adjust the steering, it's still not quite centered, but it's probably better just to center the rear one electronically using the trims, since it's really difficult to get in there to change that one. And then the front one can be manually changed by just changing the length of the rod. And I'm pretty sure what most people is really wanted to see is the drive axle working. So if I can figure out how to pick this up. So 1 second. Oops. Let's have a look. So try and hover it straight if I can. Of course, when all the weight's on the wheels, it doesn't kind of vibrate like that. That's the torque trying to transition into the chassis, I think, if I'm not mixing it up. As you can see, if we do this from the side, I'm not meant to bend this way. And that's how the mechanism works. As you can see, there's still a bit of judder, but that's because of the it's not perfect, but it does do the trick at least. I think having some at the moment this is using soft springs on all the front, with the rear having hard springs. If I had enough hard springs, I'd probably put hard springs on all the front ones as well, which would probably eliminate most of that like wobble you can see. But yeah, that's basically the car. It's not a perfect replica of the Gamma Goat, it's just a kind of like my take on it, using what I had available. Since I wanted to use the live axles and designing the full independent suspension would be a nightmare, I just figured this would be the easier option. And to be honest, I didn't think it was actually going to work as well as it does. I actually thought it would be a lot worse, especially with the torque shifting. I figured it would probably want to make the chassis roll too much with the torque, but it's not actually too bad. It's pretty stable. Yeah, so that's that. That's the so a bit of a closer look up at the Beta Goat, as I like to call it, a pun on the Gamma Goat. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope this gives you some ideas for more builds, and I'll keep posting in the future when I feel like it. So goodbye for now.